It's time for video lesson number 15, and today we're going to be learning an easy topic on congruent figures. For today's lesson, you will need the TOC you were given in class, TOC number 15. You will need a pencil or pen to take notes. You will definitely need some highlighters or markers or colored pencils because we're going to be talking about corresponding sides. And you need to highlight those different colors, so you'll need at least 3 to 4 different colors. And then calculators are also permitted for this lesson. However, you're really not going to need it. You might, but probably not. So let's dive into some old vocabulary. You have had this before in elementary school, but just a refresher, a polygon is a closed geometric figure, meaning it does not have any openings where you can get in. So think of it as a closed house where no bugs can get inside that house. So closed means it has no openings. Everything is entirely enclosed. A closed geometric figure with straight sides. It does not have any curves. Circles are not polygons. A regular polygon, and this is important, if you see regular polygon, that doesn't mean that there's nothing special. It means that all of its sides and interior or inside angles are congruent. So a regular polygon means that all of the sides are exactly the same length and all of its inside angles are all the same measurement. So that's what regular polygon means. Let's do a quick refresher on all the different polygon types and names. They are named by their sides, the number of sides they have. So some of these you should know, a couple you may not. Obviously the first row, those have 3 sides. That is a triangle. And important to note, if they have 3 sides, they also have 3 interior angles. So 3 sides and 3 angles. The second one, we have all different shapes in there, but they're all 4-sided. Those are quadrilaterals. Remember, quad means 4. Quadrilaterals have 4 sides and inside angles. The next set of shapes are 5-sided figures. Those are pentagons. Penta means 5. And they have 5 inside angles and 5 sides. That's a pentagon. The next set have 6 sides and 6 inside angles. Those are hexagons. And that's easy to remember because 6 and hex both have an X. So hexagons have 6 sides. A heptagon has 7 sides. Again, that's heptagon, 7 sides. An octagon has 8 sides. That's a stop sign. See, the stop sign is a regular polygon or a regular octagon because all of its sides have the same measure and all of its inside angles would also have that same measure. The next shape is a nonagon, and that has 9 sides. Again, a nonagon has 9 sides. You can remember that because they both start with an N. And then the last shape is a decagon, which has 10 sides. Deca means 10, and if you think of decade as 10 years, deca is part of decade, that is 10. Decagon is 10. All right, flip over your page. We're going to talk about congruent figures, which is what your SOL is actually on. So congruent is a fancy word that refers to geometric figures or shapes that are the same size and shape. So they're not any different. They're actually identical twins. So they're 2 shapes that are identical in every way. Same length of sides, same length of angles, and we use a special symbol to show congruence, and that symbol looks like an equal sign, but it's got a little squiggly snake on top. So congruent is same size and same shape, and we use that little symbol that looks like an equal sign with a little squiggly snake to show congruence. So sometimes we're going to talk about corresponding sides and corresponding angles. So when you have 2 identical shapes, we're going to say, okay, on this shape, shape A, this side matches up to what side on shape B. So those are called corresponding sides. And those are sides that have the same length or same measurement on different shapes. And they're identified by using hatch or hash marks. Sometimes they're called hatch marks, sometimes they're called hash marks, but they're little sticks that we draw on the sides to show that they're the same length. Just like that, we also have corresponding angles, which are angles that have the same measurement. Remember, we use those little degree symbols, those little tiny circles, to show measurement on angles, and they're on different shapes. And we use arcs to show that they have the same measurement. And I'll show you what those look like in just a minute. The last vocabulary word that you need to know is line of symmetry. And this refers to any line drawn through a geometric figure that divides the shape into two equal halves. Under equal, I want you to write the word identical. So not just equal, but identical halves. So that means you could take that shape and fold it in half, and you would have matching patterns or matching sides that would line up identically. So it's important to know that shapes can have one line of symmetry, they could have two lines of symmetry, they could have more than three lines of symmetry, or they could have no lines of symmetry at all. So go ahead and highlight that so you don't forget. They can have one, more than one, or no lines of symmetry at all. And don't forget, under the word equal, I want you to write identical. You spell identical, I-D-E-N-T-I-C-A-L. Identical under equal. So here's two shapes, and they are congruent. And sometimes what they'll do is they'll give you these shapes and they'll put these little markings on, but you have to know what they mean. So first we're going to look at the sides, and we're going to look at those hatch marks or hash marks. So the first thing I want to do is on the first shape that's ABC, I'm going to identify the one that has one hash mark. That is side AB. It has one hash mark, meaning it's that one specific length. Notice there's no numbers on here. You have to know these symbols in order to identify the corresponding sides. Now, if you look at the other shape, that's DEF, we have to look for the side that has only one hatch mark, which is DE. And notice what they're going to do on these is they're going to smooth the shapes all around, twist them and turn them. They're going to be identical, meaning they're identical twins. They're the same length, but you have to find what matches using these hash marks. So side AB, and we use AB with a line over the top, line segment. AB is congruent, there's that congruent symbol, to DE. Now if I look for my next one, I'm going to look for the one that has two hash marks. That means that line segment AC or side AC is going to be congruent to the side on the other shape that has also two hash marks, which is DF. So you're going to write side AC is congruent to side DF. And then the last one has three hash marks, and that's side BC, and we typically write them in order for alphabet, so that's why I'm saying BC and not CB, and that's going to match up with side EF. So those are my sides. I've color coordinated, and I want you to add color here so you can see what matches up. That the sides with one hash marks matches up with the side with two hash marks, and then the sides with three hash marks all match up. Now we're going to look into these arcs, which talk about angles. And when we identify angles, we're going to put a little angle symbol in front, and I'll show you that in just a minute. So the first thing we're going to look at is side B, or angle B, that has one little arc in its corner, saying that measurement is the same on the other shape as the one that also has one arc, which is E. So here's how we write it. Angle B is congruent to angle E. If we look for the next one, we want to find two arcs, which is angle A. Angle A is congruent to angle D because it also has two arcs. So write angle A is congruent to angle D. And the last one, angle C, has three arcs, and we're going to find the one on the other shape that also has three arcs, which is angle F. So angle C matches angle F. And those are congruency statements, meaning they're saying which parts are congruent on the other shape to the one that's identified. And you may have to do this on your SOL. You will definitely have to do this on your test. Now, what happens if we're given shapes and there's no markings and we have to identify those matching parts? So, first of all, remember those hatch or hash marks are used to show congruent sides on geometric figures. So let's do that first. I'm going to start with my smallest side, which is 3 centimeters, and I can tell that by the numbers. So I'm going to give it 1 hatch mark. And then on my other shape, I'm going to go to the same side and give it 1 hatch mark. That means that they're both 3 centimeters long. Go to my next smallest, which is 4 centimeters, and I'm going to give it 2 hatch marks. Then do the same on the other side, on the other shape. The 4 centimeters is also going to get 2 hatch marks. That tells me those are both 4 centimeters long. So I could take away those 4 centimeters and say, okay, those two are equal. The last one that has numbers is 5 centimeters, and obviously we're going to give that another set of hatch marks because it's not equal to 4 or 3. It's going to get 3 hatch marks. And since the last one doesn't have a number, I don't know how long it is, but since these are congruent figures, I can tell that that one is going to have 4 hatch marks. I just don't know how much it is, and I can't say that it's the same as 5, 4, or 3 because there's no number. So I'm going to give it a totally separate number of hatch marks. Each set of hatch marks, like 2, only the 2's match up with the 2. The 3 hatch marks match up with the other 3 hatch marks. So that's how you use hatch marks or hash marks to show congruent sides. Let's do arcs to show congruent angles now. That arcs are used to show congruent angles on geometric figures. So if we start here, I'm going to go to, again, the smallest one and start with 1 arc. There's my smallest angle on that one. And then here's my smallest angle on my second one. And I don't have those labeled with any sort of letters. Normally you will have letters there, so I can't identify. But be careful. Make sure the smallest has 1. And then my obtuse angle, which is the only one that's left, is going to get 2. So that means that those 2 angles are congruent. Now the last 2 angles, I don't have to do anything because they've got those little boxes in them. Those mean they're 90-degree angles, and those are already marked as 90-degree angles, meaning those are all right angles, so I know that those are congruent. And now it's time for you to show what you know on congruent figures. Log in and take that homework quiz.